up, girls? What is this?
Have a seat, Mayor Aaron.
You know, I really don't have time for this. I'm in the middle of cleaning up all my Christmas/Jomas decorations. Oh, wait a second. Is this a invention?
An intervention, you mean? Yes, it is. I'm worried about you.
Pshh. Come here, Alexa. What could you possibly be worried about?
Every time you have that Holiday Lilly in your possession, it changes you.
Oh. You mean this Holiday Lilly doll?
Yes, that thing is evil.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm perfectly normal.
Whoa, see, look at yourself. You're evil AF right now.
Nope, not true. You see, I'm fine. I'm fine. Are you fine? Are you okay? Because I'm good. I'm fine. I'm totally good. I'm not worried about it.
Give me that Holiday Lilly doll.
No.
Give me the doll, and I'll give you this new Showdown 2-pack to review.
Sounds like a good deal to me. Oh, I'm actually gonna finish putting away these decorations, and then I'll review this 2-pack. Thanks, come here, Alexa. Sweet.
I need to burn this dumb doll. Wait, was evil Mayor Aaron wearing lipstick?
To LumberJillville. Women's wrestling lives here. Now, before we get started, I just want to remind you to please hit subscribe to become an official resident of LJV and get a first look at all future women's wrestling figure reviews, like today's WWE Championship Showdown Series 12, Alexa Bliss versus Charlotte Flair. There's a lot of interesting things with this 2-pack. Some good, some bad. But either way, we're going to take a closer look and dive in. But let's start off looking at the packaging. Starting off with the packaging here, these Championship Showdown 2-packs are basically two basic figures packaged together, and now they have an accessory. So the Championship Showdown 2-packs replaced Battle Packs a couple years ago, and they've had some pretty bad gimmicks come and go. At first, they had these display stands that doubled as these custom side plates for this specific toy title that was really hard to find. That was kind of a fail. Then they had these like dynamic display stands that you could pose the figures on, but those were pretty cheaply made and didn't really work too well with the basics. So as of late, what we have as the included gimmick, I guess you could call it, is the championship title with custom side plates. I love it. I love that idea. I think that is awesome. The only thing I don't like are the tag teams that have been included in this line come with one tag title, which is a head scratcher. But here, it's okay. We have the Charlotte custom side plates. We'll take a closer look at that in a second. But yeah, so these are kind of meant to be open in my opinion, even though it does look on display pretty nice. We have this nice Championship Showdown logo with Charlotte and Alexa Bliss's name. We have the image of the beautiful women on the side. We have the belt kind of right across the middle there. And then on the back, we have bios of each of the women, the rest of the series, and then another look at that title. So let's open this up and get these figures out. WWE Championship Showdown 2-pack, Series 12, Alexa Bliss versus Charlotte Flair. This attire is from Extreme Rules 2021, which took place on September 26th in Columbus, Ohio. On this night, Charlotte would defeat Alexa to retain her Raw Women's Championship. Alright, so my overall first impressions of the two are okay. I'm a little frustrated with the Alexa Bliss because this could be the best basic ever created, but there's a lot of little details that weren't included or completely overlooked, and the accuracy is pretty off. In the Charlotte here, ooh, we'll take a closer look at that, but unfortunately we do have that basic body sculpt that we've gotten on her last couple basics, which just doesn't work, and on top of that, it doesn't stand. I have her hunched over forward, and she still cannot stand, so I really suggest a display stand with this one. I mean, it's ridiculous. Or you could have her hold the title in front of her. But she does have some very unique knee pads with a new material they use, which we'll get to when we take a closer look at that figure. But let's start by looking at this Raw Women's Championship, which, like I said, the main feature here is we have custom side plates. We have Charlotte Flair custom side plates, and that is excellent. And like I said, ever since I reviewed that Elite 100 Becky Lynch, I'm spoiled. I see these titles, and I'm like, they're too big, way too big, because that Elite 100 scaled down SmackDown Women's Championship, I hope, becomes the norm in all the series and all the women's championships. And I'd love to see a shrunken down women's championship included in the Showdown 2-packs with the custom side plates. So yeah, this is still that large title, but for what it is, it does work. Now let's take a closer look at these figures, and let's start with Little Miss Bliss here. Alright, so starting off with Alexa's face sculpt, face scan, and hair sculpt. This is the same face scan and sculpt that we saw in not only Elite 97 with a different paint variation, but also in the Ultimate Edition Alexa Bliss. It does look drastically different, and the reasoning is they added a lot of dark makeup here. So her lips have extra dark lipstick on. Even her eyes have a little extra dark makeup around the eyes. And it really does add to the figure, and I think that's a great little detail that they did. I think it's excellent. I love it. And it looks so much better that way. However, there are some things that I don't like. First off, the skin tone. She's way too tan. It looks like she just came from the beach. And it really doesn't match up to this character or this gimmick that she had at the time. Also, the hair sculpt that they use in this figure isn't accurate. So, the high bun hair sculpt, which we saw as an alternate head in the Ultimate Edition, that should be what's used on this figure. That's what her hairstyle was when she came to the ring. And by the end of the match, it was disheveled. The buns were pulled out. And it kind of looked like this. But at the same time, she did not have this hairstyle for this match. So, kind of a weird choice. And I'll show you when I do a comparison between her figures. Kind of the baffling confusion they've had with hair sculpt choices on her most recent figures. And the inaccuracies that they've gone with for some reason. So yeah, that's disappointing that the hair sculpt is inaccurate to this night, but I do like that face makeup there. And also, one little complaint is the hair coloration. It is like a yellow that goes into a pink, which is nice and all, but this should be like a whitish type blonde. I still like when we have the added paint detail to make the women's hair look accurate, I guess you could say, or more lifelike and real, and we just don't get that much on the women, and we don't have that here, quite frankly. It's looks like vanilla ice cream that blends into cherry, like cherry dipped vanilla ice cream is what it looks like. So yeah, the face scan and sculpt is great. I love the added dark makeup details, but the hair sculpt not being accurate bothers me, and she's way too tan. Now let's move on down to her body sculpt and attire. So moving on down to her body sculpt and her attire. So this body sculpt has been used on Alexa figures since the beginning of time. Since the creation of man, they've been using this body sculpt on Alexa figures. Not really, but honestly, they have used this on a lot of Alexa basics, but it does work fine. And they did a good job here with the paint application. Well, sort of. We'll get into that. Making it simulate her attire from that night. So that doesn't really bother me. The one thing that does bother me that you can really notice when you're looking at the body as a whole is that skin tone, way too tan. Should definitely be more pale, and it's real noticeable on this figure. You know, having it in front of me, it's just way too tan. It looks like a mix of some of her gimmicks and some stages of her careers. It doesn't really simulate that dark side Alexa at all, and that tan really takes away from that. So, like I mentioned, this sculpt has been used for a long time, so there's really nothing new here, but it is a unique sculpt to Alexa. Now, obviously, what stands out is the paint application of the attire, and I was stoked when I saw how detailed the paint application was. We have Pain and Play in text painted all over the base color black that we have here. The text is in white. However, when you turn her around, the text does not continue on the back, and that sucks in my opinion. If that text would have gone all the way around, that would have really added to the attire of this figure, in my opinion. I was really hoping it would, but it does not, and that is a letdown. It is just on the front there. Now, these red straps have little white spots that are painted, and they have little tiny studs sculpted on. We have this little black strap that's painted that goes completely around. The bottoms are just a black base color with a red waistband, a red stripe on each side, and like I said, the play and the pain in text on the front, but not the back. She has black knee pads and black boots and black kick pads. So, I mean, I'll be honest, when I first saw images of this 2-pack, I was stoked. I was like, dude, that looks really good for a basic. But the little details here that are missing or that are completely off really bother me. But anyway, let's do a little side-by-side comparison with some of her figures, and let's talk about it. All right, so let's do a little side-by-side comparison, and let's discuss about the issue that Mattel has had with Alexa Bliss figures as of late, and that's giving her the right, accurate hair sculpt. It's actually driven me nuts because she's a huge star, and you think they'd go that extra mile and put in the extra effort to make the hair sculpt accurate. So what I mean by that is this figure is a complete mashup, Elite Series 97. Now, I did do a complete review of this, but this attire here, if it had the correct head, this is what it would look like. And this would have been, oh man, it would have been in the running for Figure of the Year. Because what we got in Elite 97 is an excellent Elite, but it is a mashup, and that does bother me. This face paint isn't even from the night that she wore this attire. And yeah, that is disappointing. I really wish we would have gotten this head sculpt, because this definitely would have been accurate in combination with this attire. And I actually have this sitting on my desk because it is kind of a custom, just a part swap, and I don't really display those in my background, but I do have it on my desk because this is what the Elite should have been released as, and I love it. So yeah, what we got was kind of a mishmash. It's cool that we got that face paint, but like I said, it was only used in like one promo type appearance, and she wasn't even wearing this attire that night. So that is an inaccurate Elite. So we move on to today in the Showdown 2-pack of Bliss, and the hair once again is not accurate. She should have the high buns if they're trying to depict her entrance. They could have even kept that face scan and used this hair sculpt with this face scan. That would have really been great. But we got this hair sculpt here, and yeah, it's inaccurate. Like I said, she should have the high buns, and by the end of the match, her hair was disheveled. It kind of did simulate this, so it's not a huge deal, but at the same time, it is inaccurate. So those two figures for the inaccuracies alone bother me. But if we go to the Ultimate Edition, I did a review on this. This is a strong competitor for Figure of the Year. I mean, there we go with that face scan and sculpt. And that hair sculpt once again that I've been showing. But obviously these three all look drastically different, which is nice. They kind of put their own unique touch on each of them. But I just wish it matched with the accurate hair sculpt. Now, something else that I was going to say is it appears like it might be a different face scan, but it's not. So what I mean by that is the Showdown 2-pack looks like she has an open mouth. And here it appears to be closed, but it's really not. It's just a different paint application with the lips and the teeth. The way that they're painted gives the appearance the mouth is more open on that new Showdown 2-pack and more closed on the Ultimate Edition. So yeah, I just wanted to put some of my favorite Alexas, some of the more recent ones out here, and kind of give you a side-by-side comparison. I mean, but to me, this part of the video, I usually tell you, this is the Bliss figure you should get, but here it's not even a competition. I mean, that Ultimate Edition Bliss is, to me, phenomenal. This is the one of the most amazing women's wrestling figures I've ever reviewed. So I would say go for the Ultimate Edition. But if you are trying to get all the different looks of Bliss in this gimmick or this era, then I guess go for the Showdown 2-pack. Alright, so moving on to Charlotte's face scan, face sculpt, and hair sculpt. So it's nothing new here. We have seen this face scan, hair sculpt, face sculpt previously on some of her basics. And yeah, I mean, it does an okay job. It does look a lot like Charlotte, but to me, this hair sculpt is goofy. I do not like this hair sculpt whatsoever. I really don't think it looks too well. And I believe this is the same face sculpt and face scan that's used on her Elite, which we'll do a side-by-side here in a minute. And that one looks tremendously leaps and bounds better because that hair sculpt is a lot more natural and looks a lot more like Charlotte. This is a very situational hair sculpt, and to me, it just doesn't work. And on top of that, it's inaccurate. The night that she came out and faced off against Bliss at Extreme Rules, she had not really a high ponytail, but like a top ponytail on top of her head where the hair kind of hung down. And it looked awesome. And yeah, we have nothing close to that here. We just have a reused hair sculpt. And yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that. And even though it does look like Charlotte, and I mean, that's great and all, it is inaccurate as far as the hair sculpt goes, and that makes a big difference here. So let's move on to the attire where, believe it or not, it gets more disappointing. Alright, so moving on down to the body sculpt and the attire of Charlotte. Now, before I rip this figure apart, I want to show you something really cool. So these knee pads are completely new technology here. So you know that jacket technology we saw in the Elite 97 Ronda figure, that Elite 100 Becky, and even that Seth Rollins Elite, that recent Seth Rollins Elite. It's like that new real flexible rubber technology that they use for the jackets, and it looks like they're going to start using that for knee pads, and I think that's excellent. Now, of course, basics don't have articulation anyway, like they hardly have any articulation, so using it on basics is kind of a head scratcher, but it is a really cool concept to have this new stretchy rubber type material for knee pads, because it's not going to inhibit the motion at all, and it also looks really cool. So just wanted to point that out first, because I think that's a really cool feature that I couldn't tell by images online, so I like that new technology they're using there. All right, so let's talk about this body sculpt. It sucks. I'm just going to say it. She does not stand up. And this is a body sculpt we've gotten multiple times on her basics, and it just doesn't work for her. So Charlotte is a very defined, muscular, has a great physique, very athletic, and here this body sculpt does not do her any favors. They gave her these real skinny, long legs that Mattel just needs to retire these legs. These legs would not work for anyone on their women's roster at all. It's like they're the tall legs, so taller women superstars get these legs, and they haven't made them more muscular, more defined or anything. They look dumb. These legs are not good, so that's disappointing. As far as the upper body sculpt goes, it works okay. But speaking of sculpt, we don't have a whole lot of sculpting here in the attire. We do have a little bit of sculpting between the chest to simulate like fabric, and maybe in the back a little bit of sculpting, but that's about it. The attire is completely painted on, and I am going to tell you that this is something else that ticks me off. This is yellow and black. Her attire was gold and black, and it was a beautiful attire. And they've done this to Charlotte before. I mean, her WrestleMania 34 appearance, when she had the all gold, that's what got me and my daughter into women's wrestling. That moment was so iconic for me and her. And really, the channel wouldn't have started without that moment. And when we got a basic simulating that, it was in yellow. I mean, it was in like mustard yellow, wasn't gold at all. And here, this is not gold at all. This is straight up yellow. I know I'm colorblind, but this is yellow. And that sucks. It drives me nuts. So the color is way off there. It's nice that we have her tattoos. You know, you can see on her rib cage there. Let's see her arms. Does she have to? There we go. With a little patience there. So we do have some tattoos, which is nice. But this attire, not only is it not accurate, but it just looks sloppy the way it's painted on. At least that top. If you look at it here, it's kind of a black and yellow mix there. And it, in my opinion, does not look very good. Now the bottoms have that black and yellow combination once again, a little crown logo on the front. We have Queen on the side, and then a little logo there. And yeah, once again, just kind of looks sloppy. We have a plain black, plain yellow knee pad, but like I said, it's that new technology material. Now the boot is more of a metallic type gold, which I wish I would have used on the rest of the attire. And it has a CF on the side in black, and the black boot is just plain. So yeah, as far as the body sculpt and attire goes, not good, everybody. The body sculpt drives me nuts, you know, with those legs being way too skinny. And the attire itself is inaccurate with the colors. You know, I don't like when they use yellow instead of gold when it should be gold. And yeah, that kind of bothers me. But hey, the positives here, we have new technology on these knee pads. Holla. Alright, so I wanted to do a little side-by-side comparison between some of the more important Charlotte Flair figures, at least in my collection to me. Now, it is important to note that I do own every single Charlotte Flair figure, and I was actually waiting for the Showdown 2-pack Charlotte to arrive, and now that I have it, I will be doing a Charlotte Flair figure history in the next couple months, so look for that. I'm real excited to do that, and there's a lot of figures to cover there. It's also important to note that I do have the Ultimate Edition Charlotte. I did a full in-depth review when it came out. And I also have one MOC, and that is, to a lot of people, an end-all be-all Charlotte Flair figure. I mean, it's beautiful MOC, it's beautiful loose, and it is amazing. But it is really expensive, so that's why I don't really have that out here, because it is up there in price right now. But anyway, the first thing I wanted to talk about was this figure. This is the most important figure in LumberJillville to me. This was the very first women's wrestling figure I have ever reviewed in LumberJillville. The first review on the channel, if you go back, is this one. This is the WrestleMania Basic Charlotte Flair that depicts her WrestleMania 34 attire. Now, why is this so special? Not just because it's the first review. There was a reason why I reviewed this one first. Because WrestleMania 34 is literally what got me and my daughter into the women's division so hard. And basically started this channel. I've told the story a million times, but To briefly summarize it, my daughter saw Charlotte coming out WrestleMania 34 on the TV, and I looked at her and her eyes were big, and she was just glowing, and her jaw was dropped down to the floor, and I looked at the TV, looked at her, and I thought, wow, she admires and looks up to this amazing, beautiful, strong woman. And that is really awesome that little girls and little boys everywhere can look up to these women and appreciate them. And that's what made me dive headfirst into learning about the women's division, watching the women's division, and then buying the figures and starting the channel. So I have told that story a million times, but WrestleMania 34, that Charlotte Flair versus Asuka match was amazing, and that entrance is the most iconic women's wrestling moment for me personally. So to have a figure from that night is amazing, even if it's not that great. So like I said, sentimentally, this is like the most important figure to me, but it is disappointing that it's in like a mustard yellow with gold trim instead of all gold. But yeah, I just wanted to show you that, give a brief little synopsis there. Next up, we have Elite Series 92. Hey, Elite Series 92. So this, to me, I kind of like this more than the Ultimate Edition, but obviously the Ultimate Edition, because it has the robe, it's in the all pink, it is a lot more appealing to the eye visually to have on display. This figure did not come with a robe. It did come with a Women's Tag Team Championship, but it's not really necessary for display. And this is a beautiful, amazing Charlotte Flair figure. This is definitely an awesome figure. Like I said, I think this is neck and neck with that Ultimate, but the Ultimate probably edges it out just with all the accessories it comes with. But this is definitely a cool one. And then our poor little Showdown 2-pack in the middle here is definitely not one of the best. If I had to rank them amongst all her figures, I would say it's actually one of the worst. I mean, that's just my opinion. So I just wanted to do a real brief side-by-side comparison between all three, give a little story about this one here. And, yeah. All right, so the way that scoring works for the Showdown 2-packs is I give a score for each of the figures individually, and then a combined score for the 2-pack itself. So with that being said, I give Championship Showdown Series 12 Charlotte Flair a score of a 5 out of 10, right in the middle. And truth being told, if this Charlotte didn't have those really cool new technology knee pads and didn't have a title with custom side plates, it would be lower than 5. I just think this is about as average as you can get for a women's basic figure. I'm not really a huge fan, and I love Charlotte. I'm a huge fan of Charlotte, but this body sculpt has to go. The long skinny legs just don't fit her, and they need to quit using it so often, especially with Charlotte. So yeah, not a fan of that one. Now, as far as the Showdown 2-pack Series 12 Alexa Bliss, I give that figure an overall score of a 7 out of 10. There's a lot to like about this figure, but there's a lot that is disappointing. I don't want to say a lot to not like, but there's a lot that's disappointing. The disappointing things are the skin tone is way off, and another thing, the hair sculpt is inaccurate. Another thing, that text on the attire, which looks great, it just stops on the back. It's not on the back. So I get that it's a cost-cutting thing, but that's disappointing in my opinion. But I do like that thick makeup application, the real dark makeup. I think that's cool. And the front of the attire looks good if you're displaying it that way, obviously. You know, it looks okay, so that's why it's a 7 out of 10. So as far as the 2-pack combined, I give it an overall score of a 6 out of 10. It's definitely not one of the best Showdown 2-packs. It doesn't come anywhere near the Sasha and Bayley 2-packs that I reviewed almost a year ago. But for what it is, it's okay. I mean, I would honestly get it just for that custom Charlotte Flair title with her side plates. Thanks for stopping by LumberJillville. Women's wrestling lives here. For a first look at all future women's wrestling figure reviews, make sure to hit subscribe and become an official resident of LJV today. Head on over to ringsidecollectibles.com and use coupon code LJV at checkout to save 10% on your next order of women's wrestling figures. Also, if you like this t-shirt, head on over to ProWrestlingTees/LumberJillville and you'll find it there. Now, I have a lot of videos coming out soon. I'm really hoping that Basic Series 137 Aaliyah is here in the next couple weeks to review. But either way, the Jillies Award Show is upon us. It should be here in a couple weeks. Make sure to vote if you haven't already. I have videos that cover all the basics, all the elites, all the AEW figures, and you vote in those videos. I'm tallying them up right now, so it's not too late to vote. But I look forward to counting those up and doing the award show. Now, that being said, thank you so much for watching, and thanks for stopping by. Have a great night, y'all.